Hello students, welcome back. So today I'm going to explain about application architecture. So when we talk about application architecture, basically there are four set of architectures which are mostly used across the IT domain, and we call them T1 architecture, T2 architecture, T3 architecture, and N architecture. Or sometimes we simply say them tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and N tier. So what does this mean? Let's start with the tier 1 application architecture. When we talk about any application has basically three components. We have a web service, then we have a application code or application logic, and then we need a database. There can be applications where there is no database and just simple HTML files, or we call them static files, are in use. But mostly when we talk about a real architecture, even a very simplest application has these three components: one web service, one application code, and a web tier. But now, if we typically talk about tier 1 architecture, it means that we have all these three components running on one VM, one machine, or on your laptop. So like I have my application server, I have my database, I have my web service, everything is running under one container. That container can be your own laptop, that can be one virtual machine, that can be one server. So that is all those components are running within one operating system, within one container. So that is what is called as tier 1 architecture. This is not very practical and is good for just testing purpose or maybe doing some standalone development. But when it comes to the professional website building or managing, then we should not opt the tier 1 architecture. So in this example, you can see here, for example, my application domain, and when browsing this application, this request is going to this one machine where all the components are running here. But the drawback here is, if this VM goes down, my website will be down also. So there is no high availability. So this is the simplest topology that we can think of, and this is called as tier 1 architecture. Now if we talk about tier 2 architecture, so now here we are breaking components bit further. So instead of one server holding our all services, here we are having two servers. One server we are making dedicated for database, and one server we are making dedicated for web service and for our application server. So application server is here, which is handling the application logic for the running application. So now if someone is requesting let's say cloud365.com here, then this request first goes to the application tier by web tier, and then if there is any data which is stored in the database, then that is being communicated across application server and application database. And you can see here that now we have also divided it into two network segments, virtual network 1 and virtual network 2. So that is now where we are segregating its security perspective also. So this database subnet is not exposed to outside world, rather it's only exposed to VNet 1. So this is what is called as tier 2 architecture or tier 2 topology. Now we will talk about tier 3 architecture. In tier 3 architecture, what we are basically doing is we are actually dividing all application components specifically as per their work. So like we have in front the web tier, then we have application server, and then we have backend application database. And if you see here, we have divided all these three components in three different networks, and each network is just exposed to each other. That's it. So that means directly web server cannot reach to application database. Rather, application database is only exposed to application server, and application server is only exposed to web server, and web server is then facing the real world. So if we talk about security, here we get more secure environment if we compare it to the previous topologies. So this is what is called as 3-tier architecture, because now we have three main components of our application which are segregated or spanned across three different networks. So this is the 3-tier topology. And nowadays it's more about component specific application architectures, where we can also call that the microservice architecture, mostly we call, where we have small services which are independent of each other and we have more high availability. So sometimes we call that N-tier architecture. So when we are talking about N-tier architecture, it's really very high available. We have every component in a form of high availability. For example, we have our front facing web servers, but we have multiple web servers. If this web server goes down, still we have another web server to serve the request. Same way, if we talk about application components here, we have multiple application servers. If one of them is going down, still our application is live, because still there are two more to handle and manage the request. Same goes to databases. All these are in cluster, they are spanning across different networks. And of course, every tier, database tier or the application tier or the web tier, they are segregated between different networks interfaces, and then there is firewall in between to make it secure. So this is what is called as n-tier architecture. So this was the brief overview about different application architectures. I hope you like it, and if you have any questions, do write in the comment box below and I will get back to you. If you like my channel, do subscribe, like and hit bell icon. Thank you very much.